Hey, welcome to our next conversation iteration on the IPCP running next February 27. We've got Jay in here who's currently running and delivering and facilitating the program. So what we're interested in is, are you convincible as a coach? Is your client convinced by you? Are they skeptical? Are you skeptical as a coach, Jay?
In our experience, and particularly we delivered this last night, in our experience, in my direct experience, coaches are overly optimistic. They're overly trustful of the client. And so as we look through the coaches that were there, 20 odd coaches last night, you had most, and I want to say most, I mean 90% with a driver in being over trustful. What that shows up is that there is an overly optimistic frame that is operating from the coach in their view of the client, in that they're overly optimistic about their clients. And so what that leads to is they're not seeing the client as they are, they're seeing the client as they are. So they're projecting optimism onto the client. As you and I know, Scott, there's no pessimism or optimism. They're human frames. They don't exist in reality. And so to overtrust isn't to see the client's condition, isn't to see the client's conditioning and their humanity behind that and realize that I'm dealing directly with the conditioning. I'm dealing with the personality traits and structures. You and I call it the occupant. I'm dealing with the occupant, which is not the human being, but it's their human coping mechanism. And so being overly optimistic means they're going to get caught up in believing in the human being's coping mechanism, their personality. They're going to get caught in content.
So what?
So when they get caught in content, they can't see the context, the process, and the structure of what's running. They can't help the client developmentally. They can't help them get objective to what they're subject to because they're playing in content and they're trying to shift the deck chairs. And it's not going to make any difference in the long term.
And then from a client perspective, as you see your clients convince a strategy?
So clients convince strategies are in the Australian population, largely optimistic as well. They're largely toward the over-trusting end. The under-trusting people, the people that are skeptical about life and reality, don't tend to come into coaching terribly much. They're the ones who tend to avoid. They're the ones who actually need coaching because they need to get past their ability to over-skepticize reality and overview it as being against them. You had an example last night in Masterprac, where you've got a client in there who's over-concerned and over-worried that people are out to get them. Yeah, and it's a belief that's been running their whole lives. Whilst it's on the rarer side, it still exists.
Sure. And so what if a coach isn't across this dynamic in the coaching relationship?
Then they're going to project it upon their client. They're going to project their own optimism upon the client, and they're going to get caught up in content. They're not going to be able to, they might as well be performance coaching because they're not developmental coaching at that point. To coach developmentally to someone's vertical growth and development, to accelerate that process requires that you get past the content into the context, the process, and the structure, into the way in which they think, not what they think.
Good. So if you have that in your toolkit and you have that integrated as a coach, well done and congratulations. If you don't, you know when the next course starts. Maybe we'll see you then.